This week, Detective Odo tries to crack his most difficult case: how to escape the friend zone. Here on Feature Please, a vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
I mean, I like you, but like a friend, Joe. I'm your co-host, Peter.
I understand, Peter. We won't be forever. But, I can relate to Odo, wanting something more. What do we watch this week?
We don't have any other news?
I don't think so. I think we can get into it. This we front loaded on Burger King. We front loaded on all kinds of stuff the last few weeks. I think we're going to save it for a YouTube segment.
I went back and I listened to the Cold Station 12 collection.
Oh yeah, man, we did deep on some of those. Like 3 episodes, I think, on one of them. I
think I'm going to go back and actually rewatch those episodes. Like the podcast we did on it was pretty compelling, and it's easy to forget that Enterprise did have certifiably great moments, especially there in season 4 and the tail end of season 3. And it's such a crossroads of what I want to sit down and watch. Like I still haven't been able to bring myself to watch The Boys final season because I've heard
a lot of people are like completely off it at this point. Honestly, after season 1, I was kind of done. Like season 1 followed the comics pretty closely, and then Eric Kripke just decided he hated Trump a lot. I'm just not interested in that.
What are you watching?
So the last show I completely finished. Gosh, oh man,
because I want to watch Andor, but like I feel like it's going to be too heavy.
Andor is extremely heavy, but it's just worth it. No more heavy than any HBO show. But it's super. I mean, it's the best television program I've seen in the last 10 years. I went back and watched a lot of The West Wing recently. It's kind of like my background thing to watch. But honestly, watching some anime here and there with my wife.
The rest of the U.S., man. That's the crazy thing was like through the decline of Hollywood, just anime standing out as where eyeballs are going in terms of subscription services, movie success, and stuff like that.
Yeah, like we're big fans of. We've watched all of Demon Slayer. We've seen the movie. Chainsaw Man, saw the movie. So I like trade off, right? Like shonen for shoujo for my wife, So so we're both placated. So we're watching what's it called? Witch Hat Altair or something. Is something that she picked out. It was really gorgeously animated. Probably one of the most arresting visually shows I've seen in some time in terms of because she is an art student. She's somebody who studied animation, so there's a lot that I get to learn, frankly, from watching stuff like that with her. And my guilty pleasure that she got me into that I enjoy watching is Uma Musume, which is basically a sports anime and featuring anamorphic horse girls. It's
you're disgusting.
Listen, it's actually some of the best sports drama shit I've ever seen.
You're actually disgusting.
It's good. It's good. Uma Musume Cinderella Grey is what it's called. It's basically a track and field sports.
I hope Warhammer Inquisitors get you.
I'm not gonna shy away from it. I watched it and I liked it. We watched the whole thing. It's got a classic rise and fall arc. It's got all the sports drama you can imagine. Trying to beat your rival.
Vile. I've been trying to go through the back catalog of cult classics that I never watched, especially like kid stuff. Because, we did Alien and Aliens, and my wife was really into both of those. That
astonished basically everyone on our listener base that somehow you'd never seen the movie Alien.
Yes, our listener base of people who are into Star Trek are surprised that a guy who is into Star Trek has never watched most of Star Trek. Well, are also surprised that I did not watch Alien.
Okay, you got them there. That's actually pretty good.
I was watching Halloween and I was surprised so many people died. The kids' movies, like I watched Legend, which I'd never sat down and fully watched. My kids were not into that. I thought it was fucking badass. Like I see where all the hype is there. What else did we watch? They watched Labyrinth, which obviously I've seen a bunch. We just watched The Dark Crystal.
Oh, how'd that hold up?
2 of the 3 fell asleep, and the third stuck it out with some mixed feelings. Like
Jim Henson's
Interesting.
puppet stuff is not like super young kid friendly. It's definitely a movie I can see your kids falling asleep watching.
I was just surprised, like pacing on it, and again, the stuff people were able to get away with in the '80s in terms of just like out there, and that's really such a stark contrast today, where everything is very formulaic, very heavily like studio involvement between Legend and Dark Crystal. Like, man, they just let these guys go. They said, "Here's money, and you do whatever you want." And this can like the long sweeping shots in Dark Crystal, where it's just like Jim Henson's like, "I want to make dioramas out of Muppets and just let them chill with no dialogue and show, you know, a beautiful fern gully where everything is made out of foam."
He was an artist, man.
And sure was.
He knew how to do the thing he enjoyed doing, and it's why he's so beloved to this day. He had a vision, and he pulled it off. Although I think that movie commercially failed. Like I don't think it did well.
I believe it. I don't know. You got any other stuff from that era you think I should point the kids at next?
From the 80s. Never Ending Story? I might
put the Black Cauldron in. The what story?
Never Ending Story?
Oh, yeah, we did that. My children... my kids are cut... I don't know what they're cut from, but like we watched Never Ending Stories. 0 shits were given about that horse in the mud.
Wow.
0 fear of the wolf in the cave. I had them watch Jurassic Park. They just danced through all the parts that like scared the shit out of me and gave me nightmares as a kid. It's to the point now where I'm about to like let my oldest just watch Aliens and be like, all right, you want to start playing with fire? We can go.
It's time.
You want to watch Hellraiser 2 with Daddy? Come on. I don't know if I do that.
It's funny you brought up the Black Cauldron, the Disney movie.
Yeah.
We watched that because neither Stevie and I had ever seen it.
Yeah.
It is a fascinating, terrible movie. It's bad. I wouldn't actually like. It's bad in the sense it's not very engaging and not going to capture your children's attention.
Mm-hmm.
It is fascinating, I think, to watch from a media criticism perspective because you can see literally where the studio got a hold of this thing, and we're like, okay, everyone who is making this is out of their mind. We need to soften this somehow so that like we can appeal to kids. And there's insert shots that are clearly animated differently and more cheaply than the rest of the film to just add like stupid buffoonery into the movie and cut out some of the actual story.
So that was produced. Was it Eichmann? Right? I believe it was Eichmann was a CEO, and that was during what they call the Disney dark phase.
Correct. Yes.
That's where they produced a lot more mature content in-house. I think for a hot minute, I was like real interested in the history of Disney. And this is right as like Star Wars was falling apart and there was a lot of nerd space coverage on it and where the company had been. And that all really stands out as, I think, creatively very bold. But it's interesting to hear that like you're saying they still like injected like okay, there's got to be we can't go that far. So I don't know, maybe I'll watch it by myself. Maybe I'll have the kids watch it too. I don't know.
I mean, it's one of those movies where it's very interesting from the very perspective you said, but not actually as a film. And you could see like the sort of, you know, was it Rats of Nim, darker edge fantasy elements that were in play in the mid 80s that they were trying to tap into. And they had in part with Sword in the Stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a little bit more like that. But they saw what was being made and were like, okay, this is not actually as family friendly. It was going to get a PG rating, which they scared the shit out of them. And so that's why they cut it down so they could still make it try to get it to G, but he failed. It still stayed at PG.
Ooh.
So very interesting to watch, but not actually a good movie. Anyway.
And all that is to say that season 4, episode 13, Crossfire, I didn't care for, and I would like to talk about things other than that.
This is why we've had this 10-minute
talk about
other things. You just got to fill that hour with something that's not talking about this episode.
January 29th, 1996 is when this thing came out. Written by, there's no teleplay here. This is fully Renee Echeverria, directed by Les Landau. I forget, is Renee Echeverria a producer at this point?
He is a producer and story editor. Yes.
So this guy's got real juice right now.
He do. You know, I'm kind of surprised you didn't like it. to be honest with you. I feel like this is a really camera is focused on Odo and his drama, and we really liked a lot of that in season 3. Like we talked about how season 3 was Odo's season, where the story was really about him, even if the show didn't necessarily fully like beat you over the head with it, but everything was framed around his experience with both finding his people, dealing with interacting with them in ways that were radicalizing him, and then ending with him literally killing a changeling. And this is a return to that, right? Like, let's head back to Odo. Let's see how he's doing, because we've had our camera on everything else up to this point. And Renee never disappoints when he's given the opportunity to be the focus. And I'm interested in why it is you didn't care for it. If you mind extrapolating before we go through the episode.
It was boring as fuck. It was a struggle to keep my eyes on the screen. I was playing on my phone and just listening through a lot of this. Sad Odo gets old very quickly to me. The backdrop of the plot was not especially compelling. We just came off of big Starfleet shakeup and, again, high stakes over there in the Gamma Quadrant. And there's a lot of this episode that just is not my cup of tea. Super sad sack Odo, I did not like. Not Lee Nallis. What's his? Shakaar?
Yeah, not Lee Nallis.
I got a real hair up my ass about this guy from the episode Shakaar. Not because he is necessarily bad, but because the entire foundation of how we are introduced to him is bad. It is a rehash of the Lee Nallis character. He is a rehash of the farmer doesn't want to leave, and the government's putting their boot heel on him. Granted, having him go into politics is interesting. If Lee Nallis didn't already do that, there's something about the actor playing the character that's just very 80s soap opera boring to me. The way he talks.
Let's put Shakaar aside for a second, because that's where I agree with you.
I hate the fact that there's a romance between them.
I'm radicalized to being anti-Shakaar on the basis that Lee Nallis was a better version of this character, and they killed him off, and then had to backtrack and realize.
When did you radicalize on this?
After because I hadn't watched
during our podcast, not first run for you.
When we watched the Shakaar episode last season.
So that's a V'ger please take for you.
Yes. So this was so forgettable. Shakaar was so forgettable to me the first time around. I just didn't have a strong memory of him.
Absolutely.
He was this guy who kind of existed in the periphery and was important, but ultimately didn't have a lot to do with the plot, and then kind of went away eventually. And so I didn't think much of it because I wasn't dissecting it the way I'm dissecting it now with you, right? And so
nobody was.
Watching the Circle episodes and how good those were, and how good Lee Nallis was as a character in them, and then he dies at the end. I'm like, oh, that was a really good story. And then, oh wait, no, fuck, you should have done that.
Terrible reasons too, and go back to all that. He should have died protecting the emissary of someone trying to shoot Cisco in the back, and this guy sacrificed himself. They killed him off. A, they killed him, and B, they killed him in a fucking stupid, terrible, boring way.
So I want to put Shakaar. I want to talk about Shakaar and how he fails.
But real quick, the best part of Shakaar for me in that episode was his Disney-like cohorts. I feel like Shakaar could be, Gaston, and all these other little animated characters could be along with him. That is a guy that comes from this family, this Fast and Furious family over everything, right?
Right.
And there he gets into the dangerous world of politics. Why is the rest of his terrorist cell not his inner cabinet that follows him around, knowing that his life is in danger and they need to be there to protect him, and they can continue to provide color and ground?
Yeah, why isn't the Shakaar resistance cell a character, right?
Instead, I get this fucking dickhead adjutant guy. I got one final point in this, and it is, as we watch this episode, the real focus I want to put on it is on Kira Nerys. We have said about Odo that Odo is a child. He presents as an adult, and chronologically, he is a very old being because he was shot over from the Gamma Quadrant. But emotionally, he never really developed right. And he encounters things that he is not able to process because of the foundational development isn't there. And that's a lot of Sad Odo here, right? That a big part of that is angsty teenager first crush. Kira Nerys, and we haven't really had eyes on this, but like on one hand, she is this bad bitch terrorist that gets the job done, who does not take gruff from anybody. And when there is hard conflict, she becomes this iron spike that drives through things. We recognize her as a religious zealot in the best possible way, where she has an institutional good to her through observation of her religion. But I'm seeing this other part of her now through Vedic Bareil, through Shakaar, through this weird aversion to holodeck character. Like, there is a little girl trapped in her that never got her teenage years, who never got
She's
her
emotionally stunted in much the same way Odo is, because she spent her formative years killing people. She was a terrorist since she was a young woman.
So watching her bounce from romance to romance to romance, I met Bareil, this guy. Who is there? Anyone else really that we're missing? There was the flirting with Riker, which I think could kind of go in that bucket.
It's
but
just
not
these two so far. Yeah.
So like between Odo and her, this very much feels like a teenage love story or some sort of high school drama.
But it makes sense because these are two people that never really got to
I'm
live
just
this
saying,
part of their lives.
I'm desperate for content here, and I think again Kira's going to be the more interesting person to watch.
Odo. So again, I'm fixated on I'm bored by Sad Odo stuff that you just said. To me, that's like I couldn't stop watching it, and that's what I find so interesting. It's like you were bored, you're watching your phone. Let me get my thoughts out. You talked about like you're looking at your phone. You couldn't care, right? Like it was disengaging you. And I was completely engaged by it because he's trying so hard to act in that makeup that I couldn't stop looking away from like him at war with himself as he's recognizing in himself what we already know he experienced because of Heart of Stone, right? All goes back to he was forced to reckon with this as a reality already in the story, like the Debbie Dopapopoulos made him. Yeah. So we know from the jump, like this is him still like processing that he is in fact in love with Major Kira, but he is now having to deal with he had the thought obviously that after Vedic Bareil died, maybe he's got a chance. And what's happening is that it's going away in front of them because he doesn't exactly know how to put into practice the concept that he's in love with her, right? Like I can't bring myself. I don't have the emotional language to express my feelings to you. That's like what we know about him is he's not good at that. It's what Quark calls out to him, which is probably the best part of the entire episode is Quark being genuinely a very good friend to Odo. First trying to say like, in his own way, right? Like in a sarcastic sort of insulting way. Like I never would have guessed you would have been in love with anybody, right? And trying to help guide him emotionally. And he's the best character even to do it because we know from experience he's a total lover boy. He's gone through this arc himself repeatedly. He's actually trying to help his boy out
while also not humiliating him or mocking him through any of it.
Correct. Not he's actually trying to help him, which of course Odo recognizes by the fact he installs soundproofing at the end of the episode, right? Like it's very cool how the relationship works. And like everything that goes on in the episode as he becomes more distracted, more despondent, more emotionally chaotic, and how he's able to play that while still maintaining sort of this Odo pose, I thought it was fantastic. I was not trying to distract myself. And it's interesting that we've had such a polar opposite reaction.
Well, let me say here that you're into this anime horse racing girl thing. So
yes, I am.
So your opinion's bad here.
Yes, I understand. That's opinion invalidated. I understand.
It's an interesting episode in that it completely eats around what should be the main thrust and shows you the ramifications, the interesting parts, and all that is to say Worf handles the traditional Star Trek plot.
He does, off screen.
Off screen, and that's a jarring moment for Odo, which I liked.
It's what sends him over the edge. Well, yeah, let's start talking about the episode. The very first scene sets up so much of the emotional payoff because you get to see exactly how much Odo now cares about trying to find a way to get emotionally position himself with Major Kira, but he doesn't have he's not capable of just telling her how he feels, right? And we know he's not. We've established that as part of his character. So what is he doing? He's setting up perfectly the space that she is going to sit when she comes for their Tuesday briefing about security measures. I'm going to place, not only going to have your favorite coffee order, I'm going to place the mug exactly where it's going to be an arm's length so that you can put your feet up on my desk, sitting in the chair in this exact position. So I'm going to put this pad in this position. We know he's capable of this level of precision, not only because the episode makes a point of reminding us, but everything else we've seen about how he cares about if something is like a millimeter out of place.
I thought everything in this opening scene was terrific. And my first notes are those are some very comfy looking chairs for a security office, but Odo loves order. They call it out specifically later, but right off the bat, it's like, what do we know about the changelings? They're, fearful, blah, blah, blah. But when you get to the other stuff, it's like these guys crave very specific order and control over everything. And that's really what we're seeing here is like control over their personal shape. In Odo's case, control over his environment, which is later expressed in his conversations with Worf. And if you scale that up for the founders, they want control of the universe around them and the things they're willing to do to manipulate so everything goes the exact direction that they are looking for it to go in.
Exactly.
So part of this is he wants control of his environment. And I also feel like there is I don't want to say possessive, but I feel like there's a relationship between Odo towards Kira of like, you're my pet. And
interesting.
I want a specific reaction out of you to make me feel a certain way. And I'm going to, again, make sure the coffee is there. And as long as you are moving through the system that I have created the way that I wanted, things are very positive for me. And again,
yeah, and it's demonstrating exactly what you're talking about, which is the emotional immaturity. Like he is genuinely, he's in love with Kira, but he has no humanoid way of understanding how to express it. So he's expressing it the way he's comfortable, which is creating a very ordered and specific methodology for her to work through that provides a positive response. Because she think that's his love language. I mean, I don't know how else to put it.
That, invokes the question of, do you love her or do you love the way she makes you feel? All of this is set against a backdrop that for this story arc, which, there's not a formal arc in Memory Alpha, but like the Odo Kira romance, the last entry into this subplot was Debbie Dopapopoulos jerked me around. I found out, I discovered that she called me out on loving you. And ultimately, I lied about what happened in that cave instead of admitting my feelings towards you, right?
Right.
Like he makes an active effort to like, I am not going to disclose my feelings and I'm going to misrepresent the truth here.
And I don't know if Vedic Barile, I don't remember if Vedic Barile was still alive and they were still involved or if he had recently died by the time of the episode. I think he was still alive. So it's like that was an instant cover, right? Like, well, you're in a relationship. So like me confessing anything would be incorrect. And this is like the first time we've revisited the plot. Which enough ultimately time away from that where you can see where he's starting to feel like maybe he can get there, right?
Yeah, but like the episode ends again with him renewing his decision to himself of like, I will not acknowledge this. It feels like it's starting to push this plot out a little too long. But she shows up. They go through the rundown. We understand what their Tuesday ritual looks like and the importance to him and the warmth in their relationship. And then we find out through that.
We have the great Quark moment where he busts in to make a noise complaint. And he, talks about how he was a wildebeest or something, and then he transformed into a mouse. And Quark talks about being able to hear that. And Kira goes, "You can hear that?" And he just goes, points to his ears, "Hello?" Like, bitch, what do you think these things do? Of course I can hear it.
soon as they're like, yeah, one's quarters is on top of the other, I'm like, well, how is Quark standing for this? Like, very clearly, this dude is oozing through the walls and spying on you. This is the last guy I would want to have as a walls touching neighbor. But we find out that Shakaar is going to come to the station. We find out that there is political dissent about what's going on, to the point where we have vandalism. What are people attacking his platform for? Because so again, politically, we had Space Karen Kai Wynn.
Correct.
Old man
attempted to seize power. First, we had First Minister Skeletor, right, trying to seize power through a coup, and then after that, we had some sort of interim First Minister that was respected but died. That's when Kai Wynn attempted to take power for herself and be like both Pope and President. And ultimately, of course, Kira and Shakaar undo that and manage to separate her from that temporal power and invest it in Shakaar.
Which, real quick, I'm going to say Kai Wynn did that to herself. She created the vehicle of her own destruction there.
She did.
And I think that's important to keep in mind with her, because she is such a competent political operator that the only way that she fails seems to be when she's blinded by her own pride.
Yeah. Hubris is what always manages to undo her. So the dissent could be religious, fundamentalists may not approve. It could be that you have people who are very much in this, still in the kind of category that that First Minister Skeletor was in, and that is, we should be doing this on our own. We should not be joining the Federation, which is what Shakaar is there to meet. He's there to meet Federation representatives to try and move up the timeline of Bajor joining the Federation.
This is also important politics because Kai Wynn is opposed to Federation membership. So not Leon Alice being warm to that, very important. And I'm surprised that Sisko's not more buddy-buddy with this guy. Because again, Sisko's under mandate by Picard and Ergo, the rest of the Starfleet, at least, to get these guys in there. And let's talk for a second about Bajoran membership into the Federation, because it's always such a wild proposition. In the beginning, when there was hostility with the Cardassians,
right?
And okay, you could say, well, the Federation wants a foothold in this Cardassian region for security or whatever. But we want to fast track this planet that I think is very clearly not ready for,
which the Federation tends to, I guess, agree that they don't seem ready, and they have to be convinced to move the timetable up. That's part of the B plot, if you will.
That's before the wormhole, and then they find the wormhole, and now all of a sudden, man, this is amazing space realty.
Yeah, look at this. We need to have this in the. We had to have this in the company. This is too much of a trade route. We got to have Space Breeze be part of the team.
And then things go off the rocker. Problem after problem's dropping out of this thing, culminating in the Dominion. And then the Dominion threat leads the Klingons to start attacking the Cardassians. Like, this is such a hot area right now. I honestly don't know. Like, I can understand why there's hesitation by elements in the Federation. Like, this thing is going to drag us into fights.
They're there, though, right? Like, they're already there. They're already manning Deep Space Nine. The Federation's presence may not be at the level where the Bajorans have joined, but they are clearly reliant on the Federation as the great power sponsor of this part of space that is retaining their sovereignty. Otherwise, the Klingons or the Cardassians definitely at this point would have taken it. So them joining the Federation is really their only path forward?
For Bajor, yes. But I'm saying the Federation in terms of, like, you are bringing in a member state that is absolutely going to drag you into another war. Because there's going to be a war with the Dominion. And the question is going to be, is it going to be a war with the Cardassians? Is it going to be a war with more conflict with the Klingons? Like, the cost on Bajor for membership to the Federation is so high.
Well, I think at this point, though, it's like, if we're fighting the Dominion, we're all fighting the Dominion. Like, the Federation's fighting them whether they control Deep Space Nine and Bajor or not, right? And it's better to control it than not, right? Like, best to be in the best position we can for the thing we know is going to happen.
No, but look, man, big picture. Like, again, Deep Space Nine, the liability on that thing. Deep Space Nine has almost gotten you into a war with the Cardassians, with the Klingons, with the fucking Romulans. Not to mention all the bad stuff that's just problems with, like, dudes in the Alpha Quadrant. So there's amazing price tag on this thing in conflict, which again, we're dealing with a federation that's already ready for or gearing up for more Borg shenanigans. And we saw, I don't know, did we see a willingness for a stomach for this stuff out of the past 2 episodes? Seeing with the
We
civilians?
saw a reckoning with realism. We saw a reckoning of like, we are now entering a phase where it is no longer going to be the happy, easygoing utopia. We've got real problems, real enemies, and we have to be prepared to commit to actions that we would otherwise object to in order to defeat them.
I think at the bare minimum, we saw that Starfleet is ready for these conflicts. Starfleet has already been punched in the stomach and bullied by the Borg. Blood is already in the water, and that there is a resolve across Starfleet as a whole of like, we cannot avoid conflict anymore, and it's going to come from somewhere. So I can see Starfleet being real sweet on Bajor, but like everybody else. So, I see why Lee Nallis and why elements of the Federation would want to fast track Bajor in, but I absolutely understand why there's a big chunk of the Federation that's just like, we're already bringing someone in who is effectively not ready for membership here. Like, how many corners are we willing to cut to bring in people, this terrorist planet that is absolutely going to get us into more fights?
So when not Lee Nallis, Shakaar arrives, get a quick shot of everyone in their dress uniforms. It's like Dax, O'Brien, and Bashir's only scene in the entire episode. And welcome him to the station. Kira's very buddy with him as always. And he goes to give his opening remarks to all the Bajorans that are on the station. And this is when we hit the end of the teaser, and Odo brings up, I have credible reports that someone's going to try and assassinate Shakaar while he's here. So now we know the stakes of the episode.
What else have we seen the true way in? That is the
Cardassian. What was our man Bashir, is that they sabotaged the runabout to try and kill everybody. So it's the second time that they've come up. So this, in the next scene in the first act, we have the true way once again rearing its head as an antagonist. They apparently want to assassinate Shakaar as a way to prevent Bajor from joining the Federation or throwing some sort of chaos into the circumstances. The civilian government evidently leaked this to Odo so that he might be able to prevent it. So there's an implication that the new Cardassian government is being a little bit more friendly towards the Federation, probably out of necessity, the fact that they are also antagonistic towards the Klingons right now. So strange times makes for strange friends. And as a consequence, Odo's like, we need to get him out of here. But it doesn't take long for Kira to butt in with the obvious, which is, well, who knows better that you can't negotiate with terrorists than a terrorist? Shakaar's not leaving. He knows what the consequences are if he bows to this.
Shakaar, as a character, feels too pacifistic. This scene is an important framing, which is Shakaar will not leave because Shakaar knows that once you capitulate to terrorists, you've won. And,
correct.
And everybody's like, yeah, I agree with that too. Like, Shakaar's got real blood under his fingernails. And there is none of that portrayed through this guy's performance. There's 0% PTSD of any shape.
He's too soft. That's my real complaint with him here. There's no hard-bitten, mountaineering terrorist like verve to him whatsoever. That's when he starts to be, his life needs to be threatened. That's like when he's like, fuck him, I'm gonna triple show my face and be like, I'm not afraid, right? Like, he should be obstinate in the face of that kind of threat, trying to invite
activated like radicalized, like, we're gonna go even bigger with this. Fuck these guys. Everything about this guy feels hayseed farmer, which was what he was trying to become. But, well, it is what it is, and we can only move forward together. Like, Lee Nallis had like, I don't want to be a part of this. And then it would hit a point where it's like, oh, all right, we're going to have to do this after all. Let's go.
And Lee Nallis would have been a better character in this place because he wouldn't necessarily have the I used to be a terrorist, and therefore he would still have the I used to be a terrorist and therefore I know you can't capitulate, because he was a resistance fighter. But he also was somebody who clearly had a more pacifistic, measured sense of himself because he had spent all that time in that prison. He didn't want to be involved in politics. He was kind of like this man who felt this burden because he was turned into a hero when all he was lucky. And so for him to have this sort of more passive attitude would have made a lot of sense. He still wouldn't have given up, but he could have been like, okay, well, we'll just make this work the best we can, but we can't, he'd be more measured and would make sense. Shakaar's the kind of guy who got into a fight over using soil reclamators and then basically almost started a civil war with the space pope, right? Where's that fucking guy? He's not here.
Not here. It's back on the planet side with his friends with one arm. We get called out real quick that Eddington is not available for this episode, so the role of security chief will fall back to Worf, who I just disciplined and said, you are not the security chief anymore. Stop doing this stuff. So some mixed messaging from Cisco on that.
Good use of Worf in the episode, though. I feel like when we're like rating season 4, does Worf make the show better? It was basically a non-factor along with most of the rest of the crew in Homefront and Paradise Lost, so I'm gonna just kind of call it even there. But here, I like the use of him as he's off solving the plot, and it's solved because Worf is actually pretty good at being a security chief when it comes to like solving for crime, right? Like, like, okay, he's found traitorous elements on the Enterprise. He found this guy. He who done it his way through where he was hiding in the cargo bay or whatever, and it all happened off screen. And he used the deputies, and sure, yeah, and him just solving for all of it after Odo just gets off the trail, I actually think that adds to this episode quite a bit.
It's huge, and I also like their bonding. And it is I don't want to say it's a toxic bonding, but it's absolutely both of them reinforcing bad behavior within each other in terms of like absolute order is a good thing. And the worst thing is when your friends drop by to say hello, and the best way to keep them from doing that is being shitty and bad friends. And I'm going to start doing that to Miles O'Brien, who's just swinging by because he's lonely because his wife isn't here and we have a bond. I'm going to make him feel unwelcome. And it's like, man. And, do you feel that is reinforcing bad behavior that he's showing towards Kira in that entire situation?
I think I don't think it's bad behavior. Oh, it's an interesting point. I think they meant to play that a bit as a comedy beat.
Absolutely.
Like, have the two of them bond over the fact that they love order and hate visitors. So I don't think they were going deep with that. I think it was just a good way of like, how do we connect these two guys working together and show that they can work together? Because the last time they really talked, Odo basically pulled Worf's pants down, right, and it humiliated him, and in a way that Worf needed it, right? He needed that kind of moment where someone checked him and made him realize.
Side note to that, though, is then this situation comes up,
right? And Worf checks Odo, right?
Worf doesn't check Odo. Worf checks Odo, but by the end, Odo is so head up his own ass, worried about this Shakaar Kira thing that he completely neglects and mishandles this case. Worf swoops in, does everything, and gives Odo zero shit about it. Like, Worf has to be aware of, like, one of two things has to be happening here. Either Worf is completely oblivious to the fact that Odo's compromised, or he is intentionally not involving him in this stuff so he can slam dunk the case and kind of put Odo in his place, which I don't think happened by the resolution of that, where he's just like, oh, we took care of it. I found the guy. I used your deputies help me out. Their training is fucking incredible, by the way. You're doing an amazing job. Cool, man. I'll catch you later. Not like, hey, you're lucky I was here to fucking clean this up. Otherwise, you'd have a dead prime minister on your hands. So think about that the next time you go to fucking rat me out to the boss, bitch.
How about this?
Okay.
Off screen, there's a scene that existed where Dax, who's the most emotionally intelligent person in the entire station, who knows that Odo loves Kira, but has never said anything because,
It's exactly what you're reading my notes over here, man.
Yeah. And says, hey, man, like, this is the reason why he's distracted. So, like, if you really want to, like, be cool, why don't you just solve the problem? Because he's dealing with shit he's never dealt with before. And so in between those two scenes where he gives Odo shit and then just seems to clean the whole thing up and then kind of give him not just a pass, but a commendation for it and then leaves, is because Dax told him, like, you should, if you want to be his friend, this is how you would do it.
Where is Dax through all of this? We see her go, oh, why didn't you tell me that this boring fucking lump of shit over here was so handsome? Ooh. She's got an inside track on everybody else. Her and her relationship with Odo and Odo's furniture, I was really expecting there to be an interjection by her where it's like, you cannot be in control of everything. You cannot treat everything like an aquarium and us like pets in it. You need to step off and you need to give other people agents. I was waiting for all of that. And she has seemingly has zero visibility on any of this. So yeah, her going and instead of leave Quark as the, hey, buddy, we're going to have a chat.
Yeah, I like that more. I think Dax should have just been the person to talk to Worf.
It could have
even had that.
It could even been Dax talking to Quark like, man, he's really got it bad. Like, you need to talk to him, Quark, and I'm going to deal with this other thing through, like, them, like, basically say, you take, I'm going to take Worf, you take Odo or something. But that's a real negligence in this episode is that, again, this lady who's 6 feet up everybody's ass, who knows all about Odo to the point where she's going in. Also, too, is like, what the worst is when people swing by, like, oh, I've got Miles O'Brien. Oh, I've got Dax in my thing, specifically fucking with shit called out in this episode in terms of, precision and furniture and stuff like that. So huge miss. I did like to call out that, like, the section of the habitat ring has over 1,200 people in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Deep Space Nine is filling out big time. And again, that's against the backdrop of war. So that's just increased staff. That's what? I mean, that's very interesting.
Also, I forgot to mention when they're in the teaser, when they're reviewing the security log and they have like this domestic disturbance report of this woman beating on her husband. And it's like, Kira's like, why does he stay with her? It's like, well, why don't you look at item 12? It's like, because I caught him fucking behind the information desk. She's his kind of crazy, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Careful what you touch on Deep Space Nine. You don't know what's stripped on it.
So there's an active civilian life, shall we say, throughout the station.
There's also a little throwaway scene in there where there's a comment about Kira liking his belt, and he remanifests the belt minus the gaudy buckle.
He does, and then doesn't have it later. So the framing device for most of the rest of the episode is that because Shakaar is moving around and needs to be protected at all times, Odo takes that onto himself, which means he's constantly having to watch the progression of the romance between Shakaar and Kira, up to and including Shakaar literally asking, like, hey, does she ever talk about me? And both Shakaar and Kira have to act as if Odo's, like, because you're a changeling and you're basically a pile of goo and you find all of this weird, we're really sorry we're, like, engaging with you on these questions because we know you don't give a fuck, right? And I like that because Odo has presented himself in this way. He has, like, made a point of saying these kinds of things to everyone such that they're now just accepting that as true.
I am fundamentally alien.
I also don't understand I don't understand you solids and your relationships with each other, right? Like, harumph. He's done that. And so they're like, oh yeah, Odo, the guy who doesn't understand relationships. I bet she finds all of this very wacky. I like, and it puts him in the position of he's getting put into the friend zone without,
he put himself there.
He put himself there, and he doesn't know that that's what he's done.
The interesting parts in this, as far as the Odo performance go, are him slipping on his job when he's always been a consummate professional. And that's first evidenced in the turbolift scene.
Yeah.
We know that there's a terrorist threat against it. He is busy watching them flirt and worrying. And someone appearing to be Worf calls and says, hey, give me, there's a threat. I need access control. And he was supposed to give a password before he relinquished command, which he does not. And immediately, while I'm watching him in the turbolift, I'm like, that wall's not moving like a cheese grater, like some sort of Event Horizon door. Did they add doors to the turbolift? And yes, they did. It's very important because as the elevator turns into a demon drop, he turns into like this pressure piston. Also, too, this episode really conveys that Odo has fantastic strength.
He is in fact like Mr. Fantastic, right? Like he seems to have near superpowers.
Maybe him gently shoving that security officer over the table had a lot more force than I wanted to give it credit. but he, pins the walls and bends the turbo lift up. So this thing's now jammed, creates a turbo lift traffic jam, I assume.
One would presume.
And keep in mind too, these are reinforced, like heavy fucking duty. Remember when the Beast was attacking him in the Herman's Head episode? Like,
oh yeah,
these are heavy duty walls for a fortified prison. Cisco's like, how'd they get Worf's code? Well, they didn't. And he's like, you're slipping. You're too attached to this. You need to back the fuck off and like keep your eye on the prize. Yes, sir, I got it. And that absolutely does not happen. It gets worse and worse. And I like watching the dissidence in Odo as he is confronted with the fact, like, you are not who you thought you were. You are not able to hold this callous front. You are vulnerable to these emotions. And
the double whammy is he's distracted with Worf. Worf calls him out on it. He resolves, I got to go talk to Kira, right? I need to get over whatever is happening here because it's clearly distracting me. He goes to Kira's quarters, and what should he find? But unfortunately, apparently, Shakaar has been in there for hours. They have dinner, and he's still there. And Odo relieves the ensign that is presently in charge of security. He said, fine, I'm relieving you. I'm going to watch over the door and wait. And you don't need to say much else except that he stands there all night and they don't open the door until morning, right? We know they fucked. He knows they fucked. We know that because we see his face where he's still standing there and he's more and more despondent as he realized any chance I had of confessing how I feel and preventing this from happening, I am too late, right? They have committed to a relationship and now I have been disengaged and disempowered from being able to confess this weight that has been sitting on my chest entire episode. And it's emphasized when she goes in to talk to Kira and she is just over the moon, so happy to be starting this relationship, like giving him a big hug. I'm so glad you're the first person to know. I never knew it could be like this. And I just love everything that's going on with Odo as he's looking around and he's trying to restrain his emotions as he realizes, like, I've completely fucked all of this up. And now here I am once again having to watch the woman I love be with another man because I just couldn't figure out what it is I'm supposed to do. And that's where I think I love the episode is like this scene with Kira in her quarters where he's trying to get out of the situation as quickly and quietly as he possibly could without betraying how he feels. And then, I go back down, Worf solved the plot, and I go to my quarters and I am losing my shit. Because I've never had my personal life and my professional life so utterly, destroyed in front of me. Like, not only did I fuck up my one personal relationship I care about, and the woman I love is now with another man because I just couldn't bring myself to even express how I feel. Oh, some other guy just did my job. And he may not be giving me shit over it, and it's all like my reputation hasn't suffered, but I know I fucked up. I know I just let this shit go. And worse things could have happened if Worf wasn't here. What if Worf wasn't here? What if Worf wasn't here to solve the plot? More people could have died. Shakaar could have died. God only knows.
They're going to get him depressurizing an entire...
his quarters. Depressurizing Shakaar's quarters. That's how they're going to get him. It's just that sequence of, I'm going to stand out here and wait. Oh, fuck. I know exactly what happened. Now I have confirmation. I've got Kira super happy, so I'm never going to be able to talk about it. Now Worf's done my job, and I go back to my quarters, and I just go gorilla mode. I can't handle this. I have to vent my emotional frustration somehow, so I'm just going to destroy my belongings. Excellent. Love it.
That's a good part. It's just the mopey, sad parts go too long. I don't know if this could have effectively been a B plot, but I think this could have been an A plot to a B plot. All of the ruckus then invokes another good scene, which is Quark being forced into action and being like, I've tried to light touch this stuff before, but now I'm going to direct confront you on some emotional coaching. And I'm going to present it from behind this veil of...
You're hurting my business. Yeah.
You're hurting my dead pool. I've got a fucking betting pool on how long it takes for you to catch bad guys. So, like, I, for whatever relationship dynamic reason they continue to have, we can only be Cold War friends, right? Yeah, all of our friendship needs to be very cloak and dagger. So I'm going to give you some real talk. I'm going to give you some relationship advice with a tinge of hostility for theater.
I mean, Quark is giving really good advice, and it's advice he has had to take for himself. You got two options, right? You either go for it or you have to move on, which is precisely what Quark's had to confront with several different potential romantic partners up to this point, right? He had to confront that with Pell, right? Like, what am I going to do with this Ferengi woman I've fallen in love with, right? I've had to confront this with my Cardassian dissident girlfriend, right? Like,
my other Cardassian dissident girlfriend.
what do I do? And he knows from experience, aside, he's had like his fun, like treat women like the enemy, stuff when he's talking to Cisco, and he presents this like public face of himself as this incredibly, misogynistic, version of his species, which is quite misogynistic as a general rule. But now here with Odo, when he's actually trying to help, when he has to tap into his actual emotional intelligence, when he knows it's the correct thing to tell him, it's the truth. And yes, clearly the two are friends, and they know they can't admit it to each other because he is the cop and he's the criminal, and they enjoy
both.
They enjoy the chasing each other. Like, he enjoys trying to outwit him, and he enjoys trying to make sure he can't get outwitted by him.
He enjoys putting him in handcuffs because that's his kink.
It is his kink, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but they are friends, and only Quark could probably have this conversation with him. Really, in the whole station.
Dax.
I don't think he'd listen to Dax the way he would listen to Quark. Because if Quark tells you, it brings this level of emotional authenticity to the conversation, he's telling you the truth. And Odo would know that.
So through all of this, you got Kira Nerys, who is just a stars in her eye schoolgirl swooning all over the place.
She sure is.
There's no sign of bad bitch. I'm going to get to the bottom of this anywhere. People are making attempts on her boyfriend's life left and right, which we think is a Cardassian terror cell. But let me call out a dumb moment for her. Like, when's the last time we saw someone in the government body ruling class of Bajor come up to the station who was also a threat to Kai Wynn have attempts made on their life?
Oh, it wasn't the other guy you fucks.
Like, there's no shades of like, this might be an internal threat. Like, and think about
when, like trying to take another swing at a potential enemy. But
like the last time we saw this, when there were attempts on Vedic Bareil, like, she shut down all of her lover girl qualities and went into like hunter killer mode. And she's showing none of that here with this Lee Nallis thing. And I'm sorry, with this Shakaar thing. So she's really in a strange place as far as her normal character behavior goes. I don't know, man. Can she really be that ignorant that Odo is a person with emotions? Do you think he has her fooled that good, or do you think it's just easy for her to believe the lie because it's going to let her take what she wants, which is the romance with Shakaar?
I think, like, if you drill down on Kira's path or story, right? About we touched on this at the beginning of the episode. All right, so Kira's been a terrorist since she was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
The person who recruited her and trusted her and utilized her as a terrorist is Shakaar. And Shakaar, when we first met him last time, is kind of this sort of older brother type of figure to her. Mentor, not quite like father figure, right? Like, they stayed away from that, I think, knowing
big brother for sure.
Big brother for sure. And they know each other quite intimately as a consequence. So much so that Kira literally was willing to sacrifice everything for him. But it makes sense because, they starved and shivered in freezing caves while killing Cardassians together for years. And that sort of makes a bond between two people that's irreplaceable, right? Kira's position is that she didn't have romantic feelings for Shakaar at the time, probably because there just was no emotional bandwidth for it, right? And she also was quite emotionally incomplete. She's too busy getting vengeance for, her people,
her father's death,
her father dying, what happened to her mother, which has not yet been discussed. And everyone's motivated by the same thing, right? And so there's a lot of like sexual tension going around. Here we are in the aftermath. She's, a late 20s adult, I think, is what Kira is supposed to be. Shakaar's a little older, but not that much older, really. And now you've had the time to have your emotional shields relax. There's stability, there's peace, you have a government, things, there's stuff going on in the universe, but as it relates to their personal experiences, things are much better when they used to be. And all of that emotional intimacy that you built over the course of that formative time you spent together, it didn't go away. And now it has this opportunity to expand in a different direction because you don't have the constant pressures and stresses of fighting a insurgent war where you're trying to kill as many people as possible. It's simple, right? Like, oh, suddenly I'm reunited with this person who I really like, who I know quite intimately. And as Dak steps in and says explicitly into camera, is very attractive. And you throw that combination of things together and it doesn't take a lot to see the two suddenly have sexual interest with each other.
Yeah, but to the point where she's
no deeper than that, I think.
But to the point where she becomes neglectful of her duties. And again, Shakaar is a big fucking deal to Sisko. Like, that was the whole byline of the Shakaar thing, is that Sisko was okay with her going rogue and reactivating as a terrorist to fight her own government because it was in defiance to Kai Wynn in his best way to undermine Kai's attempts to keep them out of the Federation. Like, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, like, what's actually going on in this episode? Shakaar, who is the president of Bajor, is meeting with Federation ambassadors to formally enter the Federation.
Right.
They're not doing it on Earth, which is the host organization. They're not doing it on Bajor proper. They're doing it on the space station that is far away from Bajor at this point. I forget how many hours it takes to get there. Like, this absolutely should be happening on Bajor at the seat, either at the seat of one's power or the seat of the other's power, not the Dilemma Factory Doom level of Deep Space Nine. Having him there could only be because Sisko wants more hands-on in these negotiations to push things forward.
Or it's important to do it in the presence of the emissary in the Celestial Temple. We gotta remember, like, there's a religious element that actually Shakaar also cares about. He goes to he's religious, right? He wears the earring, he goes to temple. Like, he might not be a Vedic, but he cares about this whole spiritual part of his life. He's not an agnostic, right? And so doing it here is also possibly just important because I want to do it in the presence of the emissary and the presence of the Celestial Temple, because that's important to Bajorans.
Yeah. There is compelling politics that they don't explore. And that's another reason why I think I resent this episode.
Okay. And it's a fair point, I think. Like, if your criticism is they could have cut out some Sad Odo and done more to develop the depth of the negotiations, I'll grant that. But I don't think the Sad Odo was poorly done.
There was too much Sad Odo. There was a right amount that, like, the Sad Odo scenes, like, that are really good, are great. But again, there could have been a good political B plot in here, I think, that really gave a nice contrast and touched on some very important things. So, it's not a bad episode. It's just there was too much of the one thing at the cost of where there could have been room for a lot of other really cool shit.
Okay. You know what? I think we finally found... I liked the argument we've had about this because I think... our differing tastes sometimes creates the best conversation. I would agree, though, this is not a great episode. I think it's still rated higher than you. I would call this a good episode just because I really, really like the Odo Kira drama. I really like Odo's emotional development in particular. It's probably my favorite plot now that I'm really latched onto as part of my VJ Please experience, in part because, frankly, you brought so much to the table and making it clear what's really happening with that and made it like something this is new for me. Like, I never really focused on this before as I've been watching this show. And this episode in particular, I really liked because I never watched it with that in mind.
Mm.
But at the same time, what are you getting into? You really love the meta plot. You really love the depth of the world, how serious they're treating it. We just got done with all the coup stuff, all the stuff with the Bajorans. It clearly had a ton of depth to it. And this is an episode where there's two ideas here that are on the table, and they chose one over the other in terms of the emphasis. And you're like, I really could have used more of B, where I'm like, I really think I'm enjoying A, but it makes sense that that's kind of where we're at because you're experiencing it for the first time, and I'm the one who's like, I kind of know what's going on with B, and I'm kind of spoiled to what happens with B. I don't really feel like I need more because I know how much is coming in the future, but suddenly A is so much more interesting to me.
It was a very good palate cleanser too for Quark to shake off the buffoonery of little green men and like remind you like this is a very powerful character that has a very welcome place in this cast. But like this is 3 episodes in a row now with Odo as a major focus, and you've really shoved a lot of the other cast into the background. So I'm curious where the next couple episodes are going to go, if we're going to get a Miles O'Brien, because Miles was getting a ton of screen time there for a hot minute.
He was. I would say season 4 is very Miles light. All things
I wonder if
considered.
He's doing movies and shit.
He's definitely like, a more in-demand actor than I think a lot of his peers at this point because he's a movie star. I'm not sure if there's a specific, like, I know like season 2, was it, where Lieutenant Porkins or whatever had to basically be him in a couple episodes. But, this is they're trying to integrate Worf more.
Think about that. Like he's in Homefront for a second as fake O'Brien, but that arc, he's not in that. He's a throwaway henchman in Our Man Bashir. He wasn't in The Sword of Kahless at all. Like there's been a real shortage of Miles O'Brien.
There's definitely some decent Miles content coming for sure as the rest of the season develops. There's definitely your bog standard O'Brien Must Suffer episode, which is just as much a tradition as going to the Mirror Universe. That's to come too, right? Like we've got that to come. And I think there's another episode where he's a major part of the plot. I don't want to spoil anything about that. I think we will find a lot to enjoy. But he overall though is not a focus of this season. I think like this is again, like Worf is a big part of the season. I think necessarily so because you've set him up to, rejoin the cast. So you got to do a lot of establishing with him of like what his role is and kind of bringing his plot into what's going on with Deep Space Nine and keep it consistent. There's going to be more of that to come. You're still dealing with Odo in many ways being the main character because the Dominion's so focused on him personally. And again, there's more of that to come, as well as like the meta plot of everything that's going on with upcoming conflicts that are on the horizon. And
I also, jumping back to Worf in this, even if you would have kept most of this the same way and not gotten too deep into the politics, Cisco going to Worf and saying, hey, I know I just told you that you're not the security chief anymore, but now I need you to step back down into that as I'm over here. Like after being scolded and told to stay away from it. I think there could have been a good bonding moment there between Worf and Cisco, and then Worf going to Cisco and being like, Odo's heads up is like all the stuff we talked about with Dax, and Cisco being like, this is a good chance for you to do a solid for this other guy. And like,
I think that scene would have added a lot to the plot and maybe solidify the A story more as the focus. I agree.
And I'll, overreading into this, does Cisco see that Odo likes Kira Nerys? Would Cisco realize that the more human I can make Odo, the stronger ally and more potent of a weapon he will be against the Dominion as he stands in defiance to their way of life, like continue to promote him as the antithesis of the founders.
I think we've already established that so firmly because he basically went to Earth and helped stop a coup, right? Like he's on the team.
He's on the team as a changeling that opposes changelings. But what we're seeing here is a humanization. And that's going to really be the backbone of he has been willing to kill. I don't think he really meant to kill that guy, but he has broken so many of the rules already. Like continue to assimilate Odo into the solid way of life. Embrace your emotions. Okay, he's going through a rough patch. Let him. Give him the room to breathe on this. Let him manifest these feelings and explore this, because we want to beat the Dominion. And again, that's how the Federation wins, is we show people a better way. We erode their totalitarian fascism, and we're going to win this war with feels. Maybe.
So is Sisko doing that on purpose? No. But Peter, let us remember this conversation for the future, is all I'll say. I don't want to say anything else, but like, of all of the Babe Ruth moments you've had, perhaps this may be the greatest.
Because that would have been a good scene between him and Worf, and like Worf, like, this guy's derelict in duties, and Sisko being like, I know, but he needs this. We need to let this happen, and I need you to step back into security, chief, and take care of business here, please.
I think this is a classic. Maybe they didn't realize they were doing at the time, but realized later they were, and then some things happened around this idea. So I think, again, like, the unique fun of watching this with you is that sometimes you say these things and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like, yeah, you sure you haven't watched this show? Anyway, I don't want you to look up the next in Memory Alpha, because the blurb actually spoils the plot a little.
All right.
It's called Return to Grace, season 4, episode 14. Kira and Gul Dukat team up, and there's adventures that they have together again. We love Kira and Gul Dukat together.
We do love Kira. We love just Gul Dukat, and I'll take it through anybody I can get to see it.
So I don't want to. I mean, because this blurb spoils, I think, the first act, I'm not going to have you read it. So
I appreciate it.
Suffice it to say, our two favorites once again combine to do some fun storytelling for everybody.
Wonderful.
Indeed. And wonderful to all of you. Thank you for listening to V'ger Please. We'll see you next week.